I bow in front of the families and mothers of the martyrs. We rejoice today at the cost of their children's blood. I bow and can't say anything else.
Now, Matthew Bryza is the former U.S. ambassador to Azerbaijan. He joins us now live from Istanbul. Thanks, as always, for being with us. I mean, you were also, very importantly, a chief negotiator with the Minsk Group. So many years that the Minsk Group actually worked to resolve this conflict, and it was somehow finished in just 44 days. Did you expect an end like this?
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me be back with you, Andrea. I expected that ultimately what is spelled out in the November 9-10 agreement would be implemented, would be agreed, because I could see that Azerbaijan was going to win the war early on in the areas that Ubay was just talking about, you know, in the eastern part of the Nagorno-Karabakh zone of conflict region. The Azerbaijani use of Turkish drones and Turkish tactics, linking the drones to artillery strikes, were decimating the Armenian army. So it was clear that that Azerbaijan was going to win and then be in a negotiating position where it could not dictate the terms, but could get the basic principles of a settlement that we, the Minsk Group co-chairs, had gotten Armenia and Azerbaijan to agree to back in 2009 in principle. What surprised me was how quickly then the Armenian army sort of melted away. And again, as Ubay said, they abandoned a lot of their armor and other equipment, ran literally for the hills. And then Azerbaijan launched that sneak attack or surprise attack on Shusha, and that effectively ended the war. So I didn't expect that the Azerbaijani military would be able to drive all the way so quickly to Shusha and regain it. But the political terms of the settlement are what I expected, to be honest.
Okay, but why? I mean, my question is really why couldn't the Minsk Group get there itself? Really, what were, I mean, you had France, the United States, Russia all involved, but it seemed like they all kind of wanted different outcomes. And that's not helpful when you're trying to resolve a conflict by proxy, when there is so much foreign interest in how it's resolved. Was that really what made the Minsk Group fail in that respect?
Well, at the risk of being subjective, I actually don't think the Minsk Group failed. I think the Minsk Group succeeded in its actual task, which was to negotiate with both sides, with Azerbaijan and Armenia, and get their leaders to agree on a framework to settle the conflict. That happened in January 2009. I was there at the meeting with Ilham Aliyev and Serge Sarkisyan, then president of Armenia. The problem was that both sides left a few details, nothing hugely significant or unsolvable, but they left a few details that still had to be worked out. And neither Armenia's leader nor Azerbaijan's leader ever had enough confidence in their counterpart to be able to finalize those details. And in fact, both leaders knew that what they had agreed in principle, which is essentially the November 9-10 agreement, without anything about Nagorno-Karabakh status, was not acceptable to the citizens of their countries. So where the Minsk Group did not succeed, I think, is getting its heads of state, its presidents, to sit down with President Aliyev and whoever the Armenian leader was at the time and say, you guys have got to finalize this now, and we will give you political cover to do so. That never happened, and that was a failure.
Fair enough. Okay, so going forward, do you envision nothing but peace? I'll just put it bluntly. Or are there enough kind of outstanding issues in some land that isn't fully settled yet politically to not see the conflict erupt again, but to cause some problems and more kind of obstacles going forward?
Yeah, Andrea, I think so. My goal when I was, sitting in the White House many years ago thinking about the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, or my aspiration was that the conflict would somehow transform itself from one in which military force is likely to be used into one that's just a bothersome, nettlesome political dispute, sort of like the Cyprus question, right? Nobody's going to, shoot. There's not going to be any armed conflict on the island, but it's a difficult political set of issues. So there still will be one very important issue that I mentioned a moment ago that's not settled, and that is what will be the final legal status of the residual part of Nagorno-Karabakh that's still under the control of Armenian separatists. I think to look at that issue is exactly why I guess the Minsk Group co-chairs are on their way back to the region. The French foreign minister, on November 10th, in fact, he announced that, well, we expect the Minsk Group to restore the negotiations and come up with a way to figure out what the final legal status of Nagorno-Karabakh is going to be. But that point, though, is not in the November 10th agreement. It was in the basic principles that I was talking about before, that Azerbaijan and Armenia preliminarily agreed to. But one of the prices Armenia paid for continuing the war longer than it should have is there no longer is reference to the final legal status of Nagorno-Karabakh in the peace settlement. So I think the Minsk Group is going to try to resurrect that discussion. And I think for a while, Azerbaijan is going to have none of it because Azerbaijan feels it won the war. Pashinyan signed the agreement without anything about the legal status of Nagorno-Karabakh. And that's the deal.
Okay. Matthew Bryza, thank you so much, as always, for being with us and sharing all your insight. We really appreciate it.